our webinar tonight. I've invited Elvin Lee. He is a director for Sip and Sail. It's his own company and also a founding member of Entrepreneurs Cooperative. And Elvin is an alumni of Climb. I think he was one of the first guinea pig that took our course. So it was about 2.5 years ago, and he's always been very supportive in the community and the alumni work. So I invited him to share some of his knowledge in terms of government grants. You know, I know this is a topic that is very pertinent for all of you, SMU leaders or SMU owners, because sometimes it's not that easy to navigate these grants. So we thought that this would be a relevant topic for a lot of you. So welcome, Elvin. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I just want to get through some housekeeping issue or announcement. You know, with Zoom, I think you all probably very familiar with it by now. We've been using it for the last 6 months. But some of the important buttons on Zoom is your mute and unmute button. When the presenters are presenting, I would ask, you know, for you to mute yourself, but you are welcome to unmute anytime if you have a question or if you like to share a comment or you like to provide an answer. So you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to open your video so that we can see you. We welcome that so that we can make the connection. But if you don't feel like, you know, it's the right time, you can also not open your video. So it's up to you. The chat function, quite important. You know, we want this to be quite interactive, and I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions. So feel free to use the chat function to pose the questions. You can send it so everyone can see to share, to make it a forum, or you can send a private message either to myself or Elvin, and then we'll try our best, you know, to answer these questions during the webinar. Okay, and then there's a reaction button. And then if you like to give a reaction, thumbs up or high five, you're also welcome to use that. So, you know, these are the key functions on Zoom. Let's see. So I wanted to quickly introduce you about Climb. Now I said hello to some of the alumni earlier because thank you for coming back to the community webinar, but some of you are not familiar with Climb and, you know, just sign up because the topic might be interesting, and certainly we welcome that and we appreciate that. But Climb is a program that myself and Christophe Rigel founded 3 years ago, and Christophe is here with us tonight. Christophe, you can say hello and wave.
Hi everyone, good night.
Yeah, and then
glad to see you all here.
Yeah, and we founded the program 3 years ago, thinking about how can we create a leadership development program focused on SME owners, and starting with self-awareness, which is the company I work for, Talent Plus, we do very well, is about knowing your own profile, knowing your own strengths, and how do you, you know, by knowing yourself, how do you lead team, how do you run a business? So we created a program that has 5 modules. So CLIMBS is an acronym that represents 5 modules. And you can see here with the 5 trainers, including myself, represent constructing your talent, putting the puzzle together. Lead represent leadership. Innovate, you know, how do you think outside of the box? Monetizing your business, and then digital branding. So we've been running classes at SMU, Singapore Management University in the last 2.5 years. We have now over 400 alumni. You know, they're all pretty much in the SME sectors, and Climb, you know, has really evolved from just a leadership training program to a community. Now I wanted to also introduce Jason here. Jason Wong is actually the community leader. He's our president for the community. And Jason came to me a year ago and said that I really want to build a climb community. Jason had done all of the modules, and he said that I want to give a chance to continue to network with other SME leaders and then giving back to the community. So that's the reason why we have this community webinar and climb community. So if Jason, I think you're here, so you can say hello to everybody.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. Yeah, so basically just want to take 2 minutes to introduce myself. I'm a co-founder for a fintech startup. So after I've joined the Tenant Plus program, I found that it really related to me, and I actually benefited a lot from the training and the leadership training. So much so that I felt that perhaps we can build a network amongst the alumni where we can help each other in terms of our business, in terms of advice and so on and so forth. So since then, we started this year, and I think we have done five webinars so far. Yeah, so until we get into phase 3, where we can actually do a physical event, we'll continue to do webinars. So do keep posted on on the various events that we'll be doing. All right. So okay, that's it from me.
Thank you, Jason. So the climb community is a community whereby we come back together to continue to learn, focus on strength. You know, that's important for what we do, willing to share, create value for each other, but embrace who we are as a leader, be authentic, and then all about improvement. So I wanted to start the evening by actually doing a quick survey with 3 questions. I'm going to launch a poll, and if you guys can look to these questions, let me just, I think I have a slide for that. The first question is, I'd like to know, how do you feel when you're navigating government grants? Okay. I've got 60% answer. Okay, 61%, 70%. Okay. We're almost there, 90%. So let me share with you the result. Hang on. So can you all see the result? Yeah. So actually a majority of you, Elvin, I hope you can also see that. Majority of you have said that it's complicated. And then also 37% said no idea where to start. I think it confirmed, the reason why we want to do this webinar. Okay, let me share with you another question. Hang on 1 second. Let me do this one. So today we're gonna focus on 3 government grants. You know, we can't cover all, but we want to look at F&B Booster, Retail Booster, and also the PDPA Compliance. So we wanted to kind of get a feel from you, which one are you more interested in? So when we present, we have an idea coming from the audience. So, great, you guys are voting, very good. Okay. A lot of F&B Booster. Okay. Okay. Is everybody voted pretty much? Okay. Excellent. Let me share the result with you. So, Alvin, are you able to see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, 53% F&B, and then followed by PDPA, and then retail. Okay, got it. Perfect. Now, the last questions I have is about what Jason talked about. We wanted to continue to learn through our community. So I wanted to really ask you to tell me, what would you like to learn more? So this can be future topics that we have on the webinar or even future modules that we do. So I would appreciate you make a selection. Let me launch my poll. Okay. Wow, very interesting. So 80% of you voted, almost 90%. Hold on one second. Okay. Good. Let me share also the result. So performance management run first. Wow. Okay. Very good. And then equally distributed storytelling, coaching, building culture, and then personal financial management. Got it. Okay. So I hope that, some of our community members, Andrew's here, I know that Amos here. So you guys take notes, and this could be some future topic that we could certainly consider. Great. Thank you so much for your participation on the polling. All right, so I wanted to introduce Elvin through his talent. He's going to tell you all of his credential later, but in our language of love, we always want to introduce our speaker, through their top 5, through their talent. So this is Elvin's top 5. He has a lot of talent in work style. That intensity and adaptability really speaks to his entrepreneurship. He's someone that had that good seminar, had that positivity, had that perseverance in him, that always excited about new idea, thinking outside of the box, juggling many things. When I first met Elvin, he actually runs his own restaurant and catering business. Now he has a boating business. So he's ever changing, is always very exciting. But I think, when he's excited about an idea, there is the meaning behind it, which is the service. That's how he built relationship. He's thinking about, how can I help people? How can I help people to problem solve? So when he came to me and, told me about, these grants and explained to me his understanding, he was very, interested and eager to speak to the community, because he said that, well, I think, my knowledge of these grants can help some people, because he has also navigated some of these himself. So I said, absolutely, why don't you share what you know, and then we can open up as a forum for people to ask you questions. Now his last 2 talent is in influence, the courage, the direction. I think once Elvin have an idea, starting a new venture, then he take charge. The courage is all about taking risks and moving things forward and providing that clear direction so that he can start the new business. So he is an SME owner himself. He is an entrepreneur. So I really can't wait to welcome him, to the stage, so to speak, to tell you about himself and also his knowledge about these 3 government grants. So Elvin, over to you.
Thanks, Dion. Before I talk about myself, actually, just wanted to give a little spiel about Climb. I think one thing that I really took away and respect the people who led the each module was that the very fact that they lead by example. I think it's one thing to talk about an area that you are good at or expert at, in your past life, but I think the people that lead Climb are people who are actually practitioners in their field even today, and how they, basically what they teach is what they practice on an everyday basis. And when they when they teach with stories about their experiences, not about, last year, 10 years ago, 5 years. It's about today, tomorrow, what they're going to do in their company, what they have been doing in their company, what they'll continue to do in their companies. So I think that's what I really took away, and respect this group of people, because they are actually doing that. They're walking the talk. So I think that's one of my things that I encourage is, if you guys are having, you guys want to have somebody who's actually walking that journey to be with you and to have an objective perspective. I think this is a really great group of people. So about myself, I've been in the financial industry for 20 years. I left it in 2016. And since then, I've been involved in anything from F&B to, tech startups, to lifestyle businesses, mobile bar, and lately it's in the yacht charter business. And the latest work in progress is actually a fund management company that I'm working on. So that should probably come up in the next couple of weeks, maybe. The other thing that, I've been looking at was, since in a way we got not much to do, right? But I think the dire need is to look for help. And since I've been looking at grants and, I have my personal experience with grants, being an SME owner in the various industries, I realized that this is something that is actually very complicated, or it can be, or it is. So, at the end of the day, we need some help. So I came across this couple of grants that I felt would address a large proportion of business owners today, especially in my circle. So that's why I decided, hey, I was talking to Dion and the community, and I was sharing with them how these things may help. So that's why I decided, hey, it's time to talk about it. So maybe we can go to the next screen. I think things have changed. I think all of you know it has changed. But I guess the question is, have we, actually sat down and observed how it has changed and how we should be able to adapt? Like the yacht industry, it has changed a lot, actually. In the past, we used to get large groups of 20 to 35 people, very irregular, maybe about 2 charters or 3 charters a week. But today, I'm getting small little groups of 5, and we go out almost every day, sometimes twice a day, and sometimes 3 times a day. So I guess the end of the day is, how do we observe and take advantage of the different changes in consumer behavior because of the circumstance you're in? And I think at the end of the day, it's how do we get ourselves in a position where we will make it out the other end, of this crisis in a way. And of course, better still is if you can come out of it even stronger, right? The need to go social. When I was running my F&B, I was always struggling about the need to go social. And, it's something, social media, right? So going online, SEO, SEM, getting on Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing, right? So in a way, to me, it was a good to have. But it's not really necessary in that sense, because I cannot see the results, that's tangible. The amount of money I paid for it. But today is different, right? Today it's actually mission critical, because if you've noticed, right, during the circuit breaker, most of your sales, most of your inquiries about what services you can provide all came online. So the question now is, how do we reach out to these customers? How do we keep them engaged on a social media platform? How do we make a sale without even seeing them face to face? And then, how do we keep them coming back? So I think those are the pertinent questions that we need to ask ourselves, because all our industries are different. The products we sell are different. But this is critical to make sure that we survive during this period. So today, actually, I'm going to talk about three different topics in a way. 2 boosters and a pain, right? So the 2 boosters I'm going to talk about is the retail booster, the F&B booster, and the PDPA. And I kind of saw, your your voting just now. So I'll spend roughly the time that was allocated based on the priority that you have listed. So Retail Booster, F&B Booster, and PDPA. So for each grant, right, I'm going to talk about firstly the eligibility, and then what the grant or what the job is about, what the project should look like, and then at the end of the day, what's the financials about, okay? And I'll encourage you to stay all the way to the end because there is a kicker to all this, right? Okay, so let me go through the eligibility for the Retail Booster. And I think before that, all these grants, right, apply to SME, right? So the definition of SME is firstly, you need minimum of 30% local shareholding. Your revenue must be below 100 million annual. You must have below 200 employees. Preferably, the company has a minimum of 2 years. Okay, if it's less than that, still possible, but it's subject to approval and it's a case-by-case basis. So that these few criteria actually are common throughout all SME grants. Okay, of course, if you are above this, you are considered medium size or more like enterprise. There is still grants, but it's slightly different. The quantum is usually smaller, maybe, and or the percentage is smaller. Okay, for the Retail Booster, the specific criteria that you need to have, right, is firstly, you must be a retail shop. So under your SICC code, so the ACRA code that you have registered your company activity as, must have at least a 46 or a 47 in front. So either a retail or wholesale, okay? You must have a shop front. So you need to actually have a physical shop where people come in, look at the products. So in a way, just purely online shop front, in quotes, is not eligible. The other thing is you must be selling something as opposed to selling a service, okay? So case in point would be, for example, if you are a hairdresser, right? A hairdresser, usually it's a service provider, right? But it can be a product seller if, okay, you flip it the other way around, right? You sell the products, you sell the shampoo, you sell the conditioner, and then say, okay, because you bought this stuff, this package from these physical items, and I'll provide you the service to wash your hair for you, So 50% of my sales come from products, and then 50% from services is still possible, okay? So that's the three main criteria that you need to be eligible for the Retail Booster. Okay, so what does this Retail Booster encompass? What is the, what's the job, right? Next slide. Okay, the next slide. Basically, right, the Retail Booster's objective is to help you go online. That's the main objective. Whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's WeChat, WePao, going online, right? So what the consulting company would come and do, or the marketing company would do for you, is actually to audit what you currently have. What is your current process? What platform are you on? And you actually make an analysis on it, right? Look at your website, blah, 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 all that kind of thing. What they will then do is make a recommendation on what you can do. Of course, there's skills and knowledge transfer to you as the owner or the staff that you appoint, right? And then, of course, then you'll start doing, okay, so what's your business structure should be like? What kind of SOP when you do online sales? So this package actually includes training and hands-on, okay? So it includes a portion where the consultant actually shows you how to execute a campaign, how to, for example, choose your sex of your audience, where they stay, what's their income level, what's their interest, what's where, yeah. So at least kind of more targeted audience, right? And they will help you do the boost. Subsequently, you'll be asked to do the same thing, and then there's going to be an evaluation of what this evaluation of how you perform. So at the end of the day, it's about teaching you how to fish rather than, in a way, giving you the fish, right? So this is going to be done across 11 sessions over a 2-month period. So it starts with an audit and then starts to, do a recommendation, then kind of design the campaign with you, and then so one step at a time. So it will involve 11 sessions over a course of 2-month period. These trainings usually will be done like what we are all doing now is over Zoom. It's recorded because it needs to be audited by Enterprise Singapore. Okay. Okay, so now we talk about financials. So what does this grant do? Okay, this grant is a bit special. It's pre-approved, which means that it's already a package deal. Pre-approved meaning it's upfront 90% funding by government. Okay, so it's a pre-approved $10,000 package. The retail owner, the shop, the SME owner pays $1,000 plus 700 GST. So the $700 GST is based on the $10,000 package. So it's a very simple thing, right? That means when you apply, if it's approved, you pay the 1,700, government injects the 9,000, and the project begins. Okay, so this is very clear cut, very simple. Yeah, so that's basically what it is for the retail booster, right? So I think maybe we can just stop a bit and then see whether there's any questions.
So Elvin, there's a question from Amos. He asked if the company falls under 2 years, what are the criteria that will allow young company to be eligible? Is there a workaround or is it very strict?
It's not really very strict. Preferably it's 2 years, but if it's 1 year, it's still fine. If it's like maybe 3 months, it's still okay actually. So again, it's a case by case, but so far, I think as long as you've started the company before March, I think, before the COVID thing, should not be an issue.
Alvin, if I just may help you to answer Amos' question and to add to what you just said. In general, if you meet most of the criterions and you have one which is not, you can apply to ask for a waiver. Most of the time, ES is very understanding.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the government is trying to help. So, I don't think they're going to like be so hard and fast on some of these rules. So if we, so far, right, what our experience has been, it's been, yeah, so they're not like just sticking to the rules one by one. Yeah, so waiver is possible.
So Sally, hi Sally, she asked which government body administrates the retail booster grant?
Actually, it's by, let me see, it's Enterprise Singapore. So they actually will administer the grant. So that's the approving body in a way. We go through the Productivity Center Singapore, or Singapore Productivity Center.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Amos. Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Chef, for the comments. Okay, let's move on to F&B.
Okay, F&B is interesting because I think this one is where everybody, and there are a lot of people in this audience that will be interested in. Okay, so firstly is your SME, number one criteria, right? So similar to what I mentioned just now. More specifically, you need a food license, right? By SFA, Singapore Food Agency, right? Authority. Secondly, you must have seating capacity. So in this case, you must have tables and chairs, right, for your guests to sit down. So like bubble tea, for example, is it's most likely not included in this. The other group that's not included in this is hawkers, okay, in the hawker centers. So if you have food license and you have seating capacity, then yes, you're eligible for this. Okay, can go on. Okay, so F&B, it's a bit more fluid in a way, more customizable. So in this particular grant, the government is focusing on two aspects. For a more developed company, right? So if you have already more established brand, you've been around for a while, there's part of the grant that will actually help you to do virtual branding. Okay, what I did was I put the QR codes there, right? This actually links to case studies on Enterprise Singapore's website. So you can actually capture that, and then it will actually bring you to Enterprise Singapore, and you can actually download a PDF on case studies that they've done on that specific that topic. Okay, so virtual branding. So virtual branding, what it does is basically the need to create a virtual brand. So as what it means is, you know, you're actually creating a brand that's on top of your current brand, right? So you could be selling bak kut teh and you want to sell, I don't know, Indian food maybe. Maybe your chef, one of your group or a team can do Indian food, right? And you're using the same equipment, you're using the same premise, but it's a virtual brand. So you basically do a delivery basis. So what you're doing is you're creating another business on top of your current resources that you have. So that's what virtual brand is about. But of course, you know, it's like starting another business, just that you're using the same resources that you have. So this is usually done only for companies that are a lot more established, and they want to actually utilize their resources, their existing resources, in terms of staffing, in terms of equipment, and even like partnerships that they have, right? So the virtual brand portion is usually only by companies that are a bit more established. What most other companies would be keen in is this O2O strategy. It's actually called online to offline. Again, you can scan the QR code to actually see more details on what it actually means. What it actually means is, okay, if you go back to April, right, where we had the circuit breaker, all of you will have realized that instead of customers coming to your store, everything went online. So everything went to Deliveroo, Foodpanda, GrabFood. And if you have your own delivery website or the logistics to go with it, then a lot of that business, 100% of the business went that direction. Before COVID, before circuit breaker, and for those of you who are in F&B, what I used to look at was, I think about 10 to 15% of my sales, top line sales, was actually from the delivery platforms. But during circuit breaker, it went to 100%, right? Question now is, when circuit breaker, when phase 2 came in, what happened? A lot of the, some of the F&B, some of the F&B businesses that I spoke to said that, you know, almost, it just flipped back the other way around, right? But the problem is less people are coming, correct? So what happens now is that the government is trying to say, okay, so with that in mind, how can we harness what has happened in the past, you know, all the delivery, online delivery sales, and turn it into direct sales, which means that the sales actually come to my landing page, coming to my sales back end, okay? So that's where I think is important. This grant also allows you to do marketing. So mail drops, right? QR code campaigns. So the idea here is to be able to tap on the government agencies' database, okay? They can't give you the database because of PDPA, right? But what they will try and do is work with you as an F&B operator to come up with campaigns, promotions that they will help you to publicize. Okay, so that's where the grant comes in, the funds, right? To do mail drops, to do pamphlets. And when the customers actually accepts your promotion, they are also at the end of the day accepting or giving consent to the agency to have the name given to you. Name, contact number, so you can actually attract them to come to your place or go to your landing page, order from you. Okay, so okay, there's a lot to talk about, right? I will go on to the financials now, okay? Okay, so the projects actually range from $2,000 and above. If you are a larger company, it could be up to 100,000 or even more. Funding is 90%, again, by the government agency. The complexity of the project can be anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. So if you're gonna do both the virtual brand and the online to offline, then it's almost likely to be 6 months. But if you're just doing the online to offline, potentially 3 months. Financials, okay, how it move is basically how you get 50% first. 50% funding, you have to come up with 50%. So assuming you are $20,000 budget, right? You pay 10,000 upon the grant approval. Somewhere in between, at the middle, you pay 30%, and then at the end of the project, you pay 20%, okay, for the completion submission for the claims. Okay, next.
Elvin, sorry, there are 2 questions before we move to PDPA about the grants. So
Yep.
Joe here asks, is there any grant for purely food delivery or takeout food outlet?
So what you're saying is that you have no sit down kind of, right? That means you're
Yep.
just a virtual thing, right?
Yeah, purely open kitchen and for delivery and takeout.
Okay, so it won't come under this one because it's actually purely for that you need a sitting. You need sitting. Okay, actually I have a friend that works with me, Ken, that's on this call actually. So if there's anything he needs to add, right, he can always add it, come in and join.
Hi, everybody, I'm Ken. Yeah, so this F&B booster grant is trying to help a lot of F&B owners, while many of those are very traditional, that believe that their business is only through walk-in. And during COVID, their business are badly affected. That's why the government have administered this grant to help the F&B owners. It's specifically geared towards restaurants or cafe with sitting or even bistro, right? So if let's say you are purely like Domino pizzas without any sitting, then this grant may not be applicable for you. So there are KPIs to be met if you were to embark on the F&B booster grant. There are KPIs to met that we need to deliver. So if you were to develop a virtual brand, we need to justify that we are able to create a new income stream for you, targeting a new demographics, right? And through developing of the virtual brand, it cannot upset your current workflow, your system, your ingredient, and your manpower. So example, if let's say you are a chicken rice store, you want to come up with a virtual brand, Buntong Ki example. So one of the ideas is to come up with a chicken burger, right? Which you are using your existing ingredient, existing workflow, and existing kitchen. So there's no additional cost. And this chicken burger, we have to target a new demographics, maybe to the millennials or to the expatriates, right? But with the Buntong Ki flavor. And through developing of the virtual brand, it also, in a way, it helps the traditional business. Meaning, if it's not successful, then we can just close the tab, right? Whereby it doesn't affect your current brick and mortar brand. But if it is successful, then it's a good test bed for you to bring the virtual menu into your brick and mortar store or cafe or restaurant. So this is the KPI we need to meet for the virtual brand. And for O2O, the KPI we need to meet is we need to be able to help you capture the customer data for your future remarketing and retargeting. Reason being, Deliveroo's, Grab, they hold all your customer data and you don't have a clue who you are selling to, right? And if let's say you were to run your own Facebook or Google ads, you are building your house on people's land, right? If they were to change the system, the algorithm, you are left with nothing for all the ad spend that they've invested. So therefore, this O2O strategy is a word invented by Jack Ma. It's called like omni-channel or offline to online. But it could also be online to online, which means that placing your brand onto the marketplaces like Udo or GrabFood or Deliveroo or other marketplaces. Online to online meaning if let's say you have different stores, offline to offline meaning you have different store or franchise outlets, you can bring your current crowd to the other stores that you own, maybe from Changi to Ulan, right? So this is called O2O. So it's multi-dimensional. Through this itself, what we can do is we can do landing page creation, QR code scanning, influencer marketing with promo code that we can track and tag the performance. We can even do like location targeting through Google Ads, landing page, and even brochure distribution. So through the campaign, on top of getting the customer review, we can also help you like doing survey, like which are the most popular menu, which you can bring to your brick and mortar store, and what kind of food your current clients they like. So you can help you to develop a new menu. So this is what is behind the initiative of this O2O strategies and virtual brand. Yep. Any questions? Feel free to check in with Alvin. I'm always here to help. Right? Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, there's another question, right? On
yeah, Elvin, yeah. So Sally has a question for F&B delivery chaos, which would like to expand. Can we apply for F&B grants or retail brands?
not for retail grant. Yeah, retail grant is only for if you're selling anything else but food.
Mm.
Yeah. So if you're selling food, then you have to be under F&B grant. But I think if you are delivery kiosk, right, which have no seating, right, then again you won't fit into that particular grant criteria.
And then Brandon's here, is there any minimum packs requirement for seating requirement?
No.
Yeah, you can have 2 seats. Well, technically you have seats, right? So
Okay.
yeah, no education. No. Okay, so there's another question: is retail can include education? Unfortunately, education is usually services.
Okay. We can scope this in the project because the government will fund consultancy and also the workshop training, skill transfer. So if let's say your clients is in particular, they like to understand how we do the O2O, then we will scope a few days of training on the review and live monitoring, which we will do the skill transfer.
So can virtual brand grants apply to retail setting?
No, it's only for F&B.
Okay, very clear. Great, thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Welcome.
Thank you, Alvin. Okay,
Yep.
PDPA.
Next one, PDPA. Okay, so sometime in early July, all business owners will have gotten an email. Okay, I'm showing on screen the email that I received on the 1st of July, requiring me to, I think you can go to the next. So organizations are required to develop and implement policies and practices to meet their personal data protection obligations, and designating at least one individual as the organization's DPO, Data Protection Officer. Okay, so this is an email that everyone should have gotten. Okay, if you don't think you did, you probably missed it, or somebody in your organization got it. Okay, so do check because you would have gotten this. Okay, next. Okay, so this is not, PDPA has been around for a couple of years, but now it's mandatory for all companies to nominate the DPO, right? And to actually relook at the processes and actually be able to manage the data flow. And so data collection, data flow, data storage, and data disposal in your company. Okay, so eligibility, again, you need to be as SME, you need to be profitable in 2019 and company at least 2 years old. Again, like what we mentioned just now, you can sort for waivers for some of these things, right? Okay, so PDPA, the legal issues. Again, I've put the QR code there. If you scan that, you will see that this actually links you to PDPC. There's actually a page on the decisions that was made. Okay, so I highlighted a few here for you to have a look. So MDIS got fined $10,000 on the 3rd of August. CDP was fined $32,000 on the 3rd of August. SPH, 11 Feb. So all these are very, very recent. And if you look at the newspapers, if you look at, it's almost every month you get a whole host of different organizations that either get warnings or fines for specific breaches of their PDPA compliance. Okay, so bottom line is you need to look at your company processes and see how you are not potentially going to breach the PDPA. Okay, so what this project does is basically you engage a consultant, right, to come and assist you to look at your processes from head to tail. So it basically would mean that collection of data. Okay, so for example, if you're going to do an interview, right, you get resumes. Okay, handful of resumes. Maybe you get 10 resumes. Then you interview 3 people and you hire 1. So at the end of the day, what do you do with those resumes? Chances are you'll probably file it away. It's left in the email somewhere, and it's most likely forgotten, right, in some drawer file somewhere. So that potentially can be an issue, right? If maybe a couple of months, maybe Chinese New Year, right, cleaning out everything, right, you throw out all your files, and you didn't realize that there were documents in there that maybe had staff names, telephone numbers, customers, suppliers, and you just throw it out, right? So if Karang-Guni man picks it up and sees, wow, there's all these names here, you could potentially be looking at a fairly hefty fine, okay? Because you didn't manage the data properly. Another example was emails. How do you manage emails on a big, when people are sending out that kind of thing? Are they going to be sending it out properly, or are they going to accidentally send out customer data, or vendors or suppliers data? So this grant basically helps you to pay for a thorough review of your company's processes and actually come up with a manual to teach you and your staff basically how to manage it. You also train a data protection officer in your company. So this data protection officer, right, that you're supposed to nominate, it can be you, the business owner, it could be one of your staff, or it could be a outsourced one. So it can be a third party data protection officer. So it's like the safety officer, right, that in those construction companies and all that, that will come and actually make sure that that you've been applying all these rules. Okay, so that's what the scope of it is. A bit of difference here is that depending on the size of your company, number one, depending on what kind of company, right, you're classified into different risk levels. So for low risk companies, basically means that you're most likely a B2B, you're fairly small, up to 10 staff. Medium risk basically means that you are a B2C. Okay, so you have actually consumers out there, they are your customers, or you have a staff strength up to 20 people. For higher risk companies, it means that you are, you have more than 30 staff. So as your staff strength grows, of course, or your customer number grows, then the potential breaches are there, right? So basically, what this is about is that for the different risks, there's more complexities, and more complexities means there's more man hours and time needed to review your company. So this will be what's in it. Okay, so there's 80% funding at this point. And also, if your company is a member of E2I or NTUC union company, there's an additional 10% funding for it. So that means 90%, right? On top of that, if your company has been contributing a lot to the skills development funds, right? You have gotten a letter. It's called the Skills Futures Enterprise Credit. So that can actually top up and pay for the rest of the balance. Okay, payment terms similar. It's 50% when upon approval, when to start the project, 30% in the middle of the project, and then 20% upon completion and submission for claims. Okay. Okay. I think, yeah, that's more or less for PDPA. Any questions on PDPA?
I think we have two more questions about F&B. Elvin, you saw Sally said, if we're expanding into a cafe setup with seating capacity, can we apply for this F&B grant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. Okay. Only need two seats, right? You said.
You didn't say how many, right? So yeah.
So another question, is my F&B eligible for grant if it's set up after the start of COVID, say phase 2?
This is challenging. Sorry, Alvin. Because I have this experience. A new startup, they try to apply for the grants, but for F&B, because the project will last for 3 to 6 months. So what you need to justify for the support, you need to produce your past 6 months sales revenue, and also after the project, the sales revenue to the agency. So the government will need to review your before after. And let's say you are you just set up after COVID, you practically have nothing to show them. So there isn't a base for them to compare or to work on the funding. So most of the funding is not really applicable to the startup, because we are here to help the winners win more. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And so, Elvin, do you want to, cover these important cases?
Okay, so something that is common throughout all these grants is something that we have not seen before in the past. So in the past, grants used to be basically the government just pays for the project fees, right? The project.
No. Oh yeah. Can thanks, Molly.
In the last couple of months since April, there's actually an additional support. Okay, so what this additional support is, the logic of this support is that the government will support employees that are involved in this project. Okay, that's the rationale for it. So the government will support up to 3 staff for 3 months, up to 90% of their salary. Okay, of course, how much they'll support is the decision that will be made by Enterprise Singapore. Okay, okay, so you can select 3 staff to claim their salaries. Okay, this usually happens on the 2nd month. That means not in the beginning. It's the 2nd month. Once you're really done doing the project, then you can actually submit a claim. You can submit a claim for 1 manager and 2 executives. So the 1 manager, there's a salary cap is 6,500. The 2 executives, the salary cap is 3,500. So let me give you an example. Assuming that you claim 1 manager that's paid $4,000 a month and 2 of your staff that's paid $2,000 monthly. Okay, so these are Singaporeans or PR, cannot be foreign workers. And the government decides to support you 50% for 3 months. Okay, what that means is actually you get $4,000 per month for 3 months, and you end up with $12,000. So the government will actually pay you $12,000 on top of the funds that you will receive for the scheme that you're going on. Okay. So for example, right, let's take the easy one, the retail grant. Okay, you pay $1,700. The government funded the $9,000, right? At the end of the project, you will get $12,000 from the government for support of the 3 staff that is working on the project. I mean, that's the rationale for the support. So similarly for the F&B, at the end of it, right, after the whole thing, the government will pay you 90% of what you spent. So assuming your budget was $20,000, the government will pay you $18,000, right? On top of that, you claim the 3 salaries and it's supported 50%. the government will pay you another $12,000 for that. Okay, so this is something that's very unusual. Used to not happen, but since April, they've actually put this on top of the funding. So that's why it needs a kicker lah. Okay. Any questions on it?
Yeah, so Elvin, well, this is your information. I think anyone have any further questions on any of these grants can contact you directly. You know, I think you'll be able to walk them through more details or more personal question. But Sally has another question here saying, if we're not sure what other grants will be relevant to our F&B business, is there a department in Enterprise Singapore which we can approach to seek help from?
There's going to be, there's actually a lot of various grants out there. Even the people who don't know the grants, basically, people who are administrating grants also don't know the grants out there, okay? So the people that you can actually look out for is the SME centers. SME centers basically is actually funded by Enterprise Singapore. So they're dotted all over Singapore. I think there's a handful. I remember there was just another webinar by them actually 2 weeks ago. And they will actually have consultants that can actually help you to figure out what you need based on your circumstance. So that's actually all over Singapore. I mean, there are a few centers around Singapore, so you can actually approach them for help.
Sally, does that help? Okay, perfect. Yeah, excellent. So any other questions before we leave the webinar? You know, you guys been so active and engaged. Thank you for the questions, but I want to give you all a chance. If you like to unmute, you can also unmute and ask the questions, or you can certainly use the chat. But I'm waiting for that. Just want to make a few announcements. You know, these are the classes that we have upcoming, you know, leadership back in October. In September, we're doing innovation. If you're interested to rethink your business model, you know, come and join our class in innovation. And then digital branding will come back again in November. So thank you, Brandon. And then if you want to know more about Climb and the community, you know, you can scan this QR code and we'll get, you know, information to you. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.